Step quietly into Victorian Britain, a world lit by gas lamps where the gentle clip-clop of horses fills the air, life moved with grace and order, romance unfolding slowly like a rose blooming in a well-tended garden. In these tranquil rooms, every glance and gesture spoke volumes. Let's explore this gentle, ordered world together. Victorian society was like clockwork. Every event, every glance had its purpose. The London season was a whirlwind of balls and teas where young women and men met under watchful eyes. Courtship was public, subtle, and every gesture mattered. Love was hoped for, but a good match was essential. In the Victorian era, love was wrapped in poetry and ritual. For a young woman, romance was a distant dream expressed through subtle gestures and silent glances. A gentleman's pursuit was careful and restrained, always under watchful eyes. In this world, love grew slowly, nurtured by patience, conversation, and quiet anticipation. In Victorian times, love began with a formal introduction, never a casual meeting. A gentleman needed a mutual acquaintance to vouch for him, then left a calling card at the lady's home. If the family approved, he was invited in, always chaperoned. These careful rituals were the first steps toward romance. At the heart of Victorian courtship stood the chaperone, guardian of propriety and reputation. Whether mother, aunt or governess, she accompanied young ladies everywhere, ensuring virtue and guiding social interactions. Both gatekeeper and guide, her presence shaped every romance, her approval essential for love to blossom in this intricate world. Step into a world of gaslight and horse-drawn carriages, where every glance and gesture held meaning. Here, love was quiet, tradition ruled, and the chaperone watched over all. This is just the beginning of our journey into Victorian romance, a world of subtlety, restraint, and hope. In Victorian Britain, society was a grand, multi-layered cake, each class distinct, rarely mixing. Class shaped every aspect of life, especially courtship. For the aristocracy, marriage meant alliances. For the middle class, respectability. For workers, love found in brief moments. The heart's longings were universal, but class was the silent chaperone of every match. For Victorian aristocrats, courtship was a family enterprise, less about romance, more about securing the future. Matches were made to unite fortunes, titles and family names. Debutantes were presented at court, then swept into a season of balls and parties. Every event was a chance to meet eligible bachelors, all under watchful family eyes. Courtship followed strict rituals, dances, flowers, formal visits. Lawyers negotiated settlements. Love was a bonus, not the goal. Yet sometimes affection quietly bloomed amid all the formality. For the Victorian middle class, courtship was a performance of respectability and aspiration. The parlour was the stage, where families displayed taste and daughters' accomplishments. Strict codes governed every step: chaperoned visits, calling cards, and careful evaluation of suitors. Even within these rules, quiet romance blossomed, making each small connection deeply meaningful. Far from grand ballrooms, working-class courtship was shaped by long hours and little leisure. Couples met at work, in church, or at community gatherings, always in public, under the watchful eyes of neighbours. Love was practical, a partnership for survival, but still filled with hope and the universal desire for companionship. In Victorian times, marriage was more than romance. It was a market. Wealth, status and reputation were currency, and families saw marriage as a crucial transaction. Dowries and secure incomes mattered as much as love. The ideal? A match that satisfied both the heart and the bank account, ensuring happiness and stability for the next generation. In Victorian society, marrying outside your class was rare and scandalous. The invisible walls between classes were high and well guarded. Such unions risked social catastrophe, family rejection, and lifelong exclusion. Yet some couples defied the odds, proving that love could sometimes cross even the most formidable social divide. While the customs, rituals and economic pressures of courtship varied dramatically from the stately homes of Mayfair to the terraced houses of Manchester, some things remained the same. Across all social classes, the fundamental human emotions of love, hope, jealousy and heartbreak were a shared experience. A young aristocrat waiting for a letter from her suitor felt the same flutter of anticipation as a factory girl waiting for her young man to meet her at the church gate on Sunday. The language of the heart, it seems, was universal, even if the dialect it was spoken in was shaped by one's station in life and their social standing. The desire for a true and loving partnership was a common thread. While a wealthy bride's marriage might be a strategic alliance, she still hoped for kindness and companionship from her husband. A working-class man, seeking a partner for survival, also longed for someone to share his joys and sorrows with. Popular songs, poems and stories of the era, consumed by all classes, were filled with tales of true love, conquering adversity. These narratives reflected a collective yearning for romantic fulfillment, a belief that love was the ultimate prize, regardless of one's circumstances. Everyone, it seemed, dreamed of finding their one perfect match. Furthermore, certain milestones were universally significant. The moment of a proposal, whether delivered on one knee in a grand conservatory or whispered shyly over a garden fence, was a turning point in any couple's life. The exchange of a ring, whether a diamond from a Bond Street jeweller or a simple silver band from a market stall, was a powerful symbol of commitment recognized by all. The wedding day itself, though the scale of the celebration might differ enormously, represented the same thing for every couple. A public declaration of their union and the hopeful beginning of a new life together as a husband and a wife. In the end, the rigid tiers of Victorian society acted as different containers for the same universal feelings. The shape of the container, be it a crystal vase or a clay pot, certainly influenced the expression of love, but the emotion itself was the same. The hopes and fears of a young couple embarking on the journey of courtship were remarkably similar. No matter their address or their income, they all hoped for affection, for security, and for a companion to walk with through life. In Victorian society, every courtship began with a formal introduction, a ritual that opened the door to all future possibilities. Without this key, the journey of courtship could not even begin. The introduction was a moment of quiet significance, a formal permission slip from society itself. Once the words were spoken, the conversation was brief, polite, and bound by etiquette. Two actors on society's stage, each hoping to make a lasting impression. In Victorian society, the calling card was more than paper. It was a ritual. A gentleman left his card at a lady's home, hoping for approval. If accepted, he'd be invited in for a brief chaperone visit. This formal dance gave families control, and for young people it was filled with anticipation. Being granted entry into the parlour was like being invited backstage after a theatrical performance. This room was the heart of the middle-class Victorian home, a carefully curated space designed to project the family's status, taste and moral character. It was filled with heavy furniture, thick carpets, family portraits and shelves of worthy books. For a suitor, the parlour visit was a crucial test. He was now on the family's turf, being observed not only by the young lady he admired, but also by her formidable mother, the ever-present chaperone. Every word he spoke, every gesture he made was being meticulously evaluated for its propriety and sincerity. The conversation during these visits was an art form in itself. It had to be light, cultured, and entirely free of controversy or excessive personal revelation. Safe topics included literature, approved authors only, music, art, the weather, and perhaps a recent sermon from church. The suitor might be invited to admire the young lady's watercolours or listen as she played a piece on the pianoforte. These were not mere pastimes. They were part of her resume as a potential wife, demonstrating her refinement and domestic accomplishments. The young man's role was to be an appreciative audience, offering gentle and intelligent praise that showed his own good taste. Despite the formal constraints and the constant presence of a chaperone, the parlour visit was where the first fragile seeds of intimacy could be sown. It was in the small details that true feelings were communicated. A shared smile over a line of poetry, a brief moment of eye contact as she finished her song, or the way his voice softened when addressing her directly. These were the subtle signals that spoke volumes. The very limitations of the setting amplified the power of these small connections, making them feel incredibly significant and deeply romantic. It was a quiet, unfolding drama, played out between the teacups and the antimacassars. For the young lady, these visits were a source of both anxiety and excitement. She took great care with her appearance and rehearsed polite conversation, knowing she was being judged. Yet it was also her chance to assess the gentleman in return. Was he kind? Did he listen attentively? Did his eyes show genuine warmth? For the gentleman, the pressure was immense. He had to impress the mother, charm the daughter, and navigate a minefield of social rules, all within a 20-minute window. The parlour visit was the central ritual of the courtship, a formal stage where sentiment and scrutiny performed a delicate, careful dance. While the parlour was the primary theatre of courtship, interactions were not confined solely to the indoors. A welcome next step, signifying a growing level of acceptance, was the chaperoned walk or promenade. An invitation to escort a young lady for a walk in a public park or along a fashionable promenade was a sign that the suitor was gaining the family's trust. However, this was no private romantic stroll. The chaperone, whether the lady's mother, an aunt or a governess, was an essential part of the outing. She would walk with them, often a few paces behind, close enough to hear their conversation and ensure that no impropriety occurred. This change of scenery offered a breath of fresh air, both literally and figuratively. Away from the formal stillness of the drawing room, conversation could become slightly more relaxed and spontaneous. The couple could comment on the passing scenery, the behaviour of other people, or the beauty of the flower beds. It was an opportunity for the gentleman to demonstrate his attentiveness, perhaps by pointing out something of interest or by shielding the lady from a passing carriage. The simple act of walking side by side, even at a prescribed distance, created a different, more connected dynamic than sitting on opposite sides of a parlour. The public nature of the promenade served its own purpose. To be seen walking out with a particular gentleman was a subtle but clear public statement. It showed the world that he was a serious suitor and that the lady's family was encouraging his attentions. This could be a double-edged sword. If a gentleman escorted a lady on several such walks, expectations would begin to build. To then cease his calls without a very good reason would be considered dishonourable, as it might damage her reputation and suggest he had been trifling with her affections. Every chaperoned walk was another step on a path from which it became increasingly difficult to turn back. For the young couple, these walks were precious moments. Surrounded by the gentle hum of public life, they could create a small, shared world of their own, all under the chaperone's watchful gaze. The gentleman might have the rare opportunity to hold his lady's parasol or to briefly touch her elbow to guide her over an uneven patch of ground. These fleeting, permissible moments of physical contact were electric, charged with unspoken meaning. The chaperoned promenade was a vital part of the courtship ritual, a chance to move their budding relationship forward in the open air, one slow, respectable, and carefully monitored step at a time. In Victorian times, emotions were often hidden, so people used flowers to send secret messages. Floriography, the language of flowers, let a suitor express love or admiration with a bouquet, and a lady could reply in kind. Each flower and gesture held meaning, romance spoken in blooms, not words. In Victorian times, handwritten letters were the heart of courtship, a private sanctuary for true feelings when parlour talk was bound by propriety. Every detail, from the choice of paper to the elegance of the script, revealed character and intent. These cherished letters became keepsakes, tangible evidence of love and a space where two hearts could finally speak freely. The Victorian ball was the glittering heart of the social season, a place of spectacle, music, and the thrilling possibility of romance. For debutantes and gentlemen, it was the ultimate stage for courtship, where a full dance card meant popularity and a shared waltz could spark true connection. Amidst the music and crowd, a lingering glance or whispered word could mean everything, a private moment in a dazzling public. Victorian courtship was a slow, deliberate dance, each step from calling cards to chaperoned walks, designed to build trust and understanding. Haste was frowned upon, patience and observation were prized. In a world of instant connection, this gentle rhythm may seem foreign, but it offered a quiet beauty and a foundation for lasting love. In Victorian society, a young woman's reputation was everything, fragile, precious, and easily lost to scandal. To protect her, the chaperone became essential, a watchful guardian ensuring all interactions were proper and above reproach. The chaperone's presence offered safety, respectability, and peace of mind. Her watchfulness was a shield for both heart and name. She was the silent guardian of the family's future. The chaperone's role demanded constant vigilance. From the moment a young lady entered society, the chaperone was always present, at balls, teas, walks, and even private visits, ensuring propriety was never breached. Her watchful presence was a testament to the Victorian belief that a young woman's journey to marriage was never to be walked alone. While the primary role of the chaperone was to prevent improper behavior, a truly skilled chaperone understood that her job was also to facilitate a suitable match. Her goal was not to stop a romance from happening, but to ensure it happened in the correct way. This required a delicate balancing act. She had to be a guardian, but also a subtle matchmaker. A clever chaperone knew when to be visible and when to, in a sense, disappear. She could create opportunities for a young couple to connect, all while maintaining the outward appearance of strict supervision. This was the true art of her profession. In a crowded ballroom or a busy parlour, a good chaperone knew how to use the environment to her advantage. She might strategically engage a neighbour in a loud and distracting conversation, creating a pocket of relative privacy for the young couple sitting nearby. She might develop a sudden fascination with a painting on the far side of the room, drawing her attention away for a few precious moments. She might pretend to be deeply engrossed in her knitting or embroidery, her head bowed over her work, even as her ears remained alert. These were subtle manoeuvres that gave a favoured suitor a chance to speak more freely with her charge. A good chaperone was also a master of logistics. She could arrange for a carriage ride to take a particularly scenic route, allowing for a longer conversation. During a chaperoned walk, she might pause to admire a flower bed or speak to an acquaintance, allowing the couple to walk a few paces ahead, just out of earshot. She was adept at managing time, knowing precisely how long to let a conversation with a promising suitor continue before politely intervening. She was the director of the scene, subtly shaping the environment to allow the romantic plot to advance without ever breaking the fundamental rules of the play. This ability to be both present and absent was what separated a great chaperone from a merely adequate one. She had to be discerning, able to recognize a truly suitable and honorable man from one who was merely charming. For a desirable suitor, she could bend the spirit of the rules without breaking the letter of them. Her subtle assistance could make all the difference, transforming a series of stiff, formal meetings into the foundation of a genuine emotional connection. In this way, the best chaperones were not obstacles to love, but quiet, clever architects of it. In Victorian society, a young lady's chaperone could be her devoted mother, a strict aunt, or even a hired companion. Each brought her own style, maternal care, family honour, or professional caution. Whoever she was, the chaperone's presence shaped every courtship, making romance both possible and perilous. For a Victorian gentleman pursuing a lady's affections, the path was not straightforward. He had to win the approval of not one but two women, the young lady he admired and her ever-present, ever-watchful chaperone. Gaining the chaperone's trust was a critical part of the courtship, a challenge that required diplomacy, respect, and a considerable amount of charm. He understood that the chaperone was the gatekeeper. Her opinion held immense weight with the young lady's parents, and her disapproval could bring a promising courtship to an abrupt and decisive end, no matter how the young lady herself felt about him. The gentleman's first task was to demonstrate his unwavering respect for the conventions the chaperone represented. He had to prove he was a man of honour who understood and abided by the rules of society. This meant never attempting to speak with the young lady without the chaperone's permission, never overstaying his welcome during a parlour visit, and always including the chaperone in the conversation. He would direct polite questions to her, listen attentively to her opinions, and treat her with the utmost deference. He was not just courting the daughter, he was, in a very real sense, courting the chaperone as well. A clever suitor would find subtle ways to curry favour with this powerful figure. He might discover her interest in a particular author and arrive at his next visit prepared to discuss the writer's latest work. He could offer a sincere compliment on her needlepoint or praise the wisdom of her observations. If she seemed tired at a long ball, he might offer to fetch her a cup of tea. These were not acts of flattery, but of intelligent social navigation. They were small gestures designed to show that he was a thoughtful, considerate man who respected his elders and understood the importance of her role in the courtship process. Ultimately, the gentleman had to convince the chaperone that his intentions were entirely honourable and that he was a suitable guardian for the young lady's future happiness. He had to project an air of stability, seriousness and kindness. The chaperone was looking for a man who would be a good husband and a reliable provider, someone who would cherish and protect her charge. By winning her confidence, the gentleman could turn a potential obstacle into a powerful ally. A supportive chaperone could smooth his path, create opportunities for connection, and speak favourably of him to the family, making his challenging quest for the young lady's hand that much easier. Under a chaperone's watchful eye, couples became experts in silent communication. Romance lived in glances, not words. A shared look across a room could say everything: longing, amusement, or secret understanding. Even a fleeting touch, passing a teacup, a hand on an elbow, became electrifying. Tone of voice, too, was a secret code, warmth and softness hidden in talk of the weather. These tiny charged moments built a private world invisible to the chaperone. In this world, the smallest gesture could mean everything. The chaperone was more than a rule enforcer. She was often a trusted advisor and mentor. In private, she and her charge would discuss suitors, decode intentions, and share honest feelings. Her experience helped the young woman navigate the confusing world of courtship. She taught social skills, offered perspective, and provided emotional support. The chaperone was both guardian and ally, guiding her charge toward a wise match. This relationship was built on trust, guidance, and shared hopes. Victorian courtship was a game of hidden messages. Direct declarations were forbidden, so couples invented a language of subtlety. Every gesture, glance and object could carry meaning, a fan's movement, a flower's colour, a fleeting smile. With chaperones always present, lovers became fluent in this secret code. The smallest sign, a smile, a look, a flower, could sustain hope for weeks. This slow, careful dance made affection grow gradually, deepening connection before a single word of love was spoken. In this world, restraint made every signal matter. The art of courtship was a puzzle, one solved with wit, patience and observation. In Victorian romance, the eyes spoke louder than words. A single glance could confess love, offer encouragement, or gently reject. In a crowded ballroom, a look held a world of meaning, admiration, alliance, or secret amusement. These silent exchanges built intimacy, creating a private world even in public. The deniability of a glance made it thrilling and safe, a way to test feelings without breaking rules. Romance thrived in these stolen moments of eye contact. In a restrained society, a look could set hearts racing. Accessories became tools for secret communication in Victorian courtship. A lady's fan was a coded language. A gesture could mean yes, no, or we're being watched. Dropping a fan or handkerchief invited a gentleman's attention, a rare chance for interaction. Even gloves sent signals. Smoothing them showed approval. Tapping suggested indifference. Gentlemen had to read these cues and respond with care. This playful, silent dialogue added wit and excitement to courtship. Every object was a prop in the dance of romance. Flowers spoke volumes in Victorian love. Each bloom carried a message. A bouquet was a secret letter. Red roses for love, yellow tulips for longing, striped carnations for refusal. How a lady accepted or wore the flowers revealed her answer. This floral code allowed couples to express feelings with beauty and discretion. Even a single flower in the hair or buttonhole could send a private signal. Floriography turned courtship into poetry. Romance expressed in petals, not words. In this world, a flower could say what hearts dared not speak. In Victorian courtship, exchanging letters was a milestone, an intimate channel away from chaperones where true feelings could be shared. Each letter was a carefully crafted reflection of character and hope. As affection grew, words became warmer, forging a private world of intimacy. These treasured letters, tied in ribbons, were the heart of a love story. The art of conversation in a Victorian drawing room was a masterpiece of subtlety. With a chaperone always present, a young couple could not speak directly about their feelings or any topic deemed too personal. Yet within these strict limitations, they found clever ways to communicate their sentiments. The key was to speak in code, using seemingly innocent topics as a vehicle for personal messages. A discussion about a character in a novel, a line in a poem, or the lyrics of a song could become a way for a couple to explore their own emotions and signal their intentions to one another, all under the guise of intellectual discourse. A gentleman might, for example, bring up a popular poem about faithful love. By praising its sentiments and looking at the young lady as he spoke, he was indirectly telling her that he valued faithfulness and hoped to find it in a relationship. Her agreement and her own comments on the poem would be her reply. They were not just discussing literature, they were having a conversation about their own values and feelings. A shared love for a particular piece of music with romantic lyrics could also become a secret bond between them, a song that held a special meaning known only to them. Compliments had to be delivered with similar indirection. A gentleman could not say, "Your eyes are beautiful." That would be far too personal and forward. Instead, he might say, "The blue in that painting is quite striking. It reminds one of the colour of a summer sky." If the lady had blue eyes, she would understand the compliment was truly meant for her. He could praise her skill at the piano, not just for its technical merit, but for the feeling and soul she put into her playing, a compliment to her inner character rather than just her accomplishments. It was a way of expressing admiration without being improperly personal. This indirect way of speaking required great skill and attentiveness. A couple had to listen not just to the words being said, but to the meaning behind them. It turned every conversation into a fascinating puzzle, a search for the hidden message beneath the polite surface. It allowed them to reveal their personalities and affections gradually and safely. By discussing the world around them, art, music, nature, literature, they were in fact revealing themselves. This art of saying everything by saying almost nothing was the cornerstone of parlour courtship, a testament to the Victorian ability to find deep meaning in the most constrained of circumstances. The romance of poets Elizabeth Barrett and Robert Browning is a testament to the power of words. Confined by her father, Elizabeth found freedom in Robert's letters. Their secret correspondence blossomed into love, giving her the courage to defy convention. In 1846, they married in secret, their story becoming the ultimate Victorian romance. Every step of Victorian courtship led to one momentous question: the proposal of marriage. The gentleman first sought the father's approval, declaring his intentions and prospects. Only then could he ask the lady herself, often in a rare private moment. Her gentle yes marked the joyful end of courtship and the beginning of their new life together. Once the proposal was joyfully accepted, the couple entered the formal engagement, a public promise marked by a ring. Families celebrated, announcements were made, and plans began. The couple, no longer just courting, could now dream together, their bond deepening as they prepared for marriage. The engagement was a joyful interlude before the wedding day itself. The engagement period was, well, a profound time of transition, especially for the young woman. She was standing on the threshold between two different lives. Behind her was her childhood as a daughter in her father's house, a life of relative shelter and dependence. Ahead of her lay the vast and unknown territory of being a wife, a mistress of her own household, and eventually a mother. It was a time filled with a mixture of excitement and a quiet, nervous apprehension. She was preparing to leave the only home she had ever known to embark on a new life with the man she had chosen to marry. Her preparations were both practical and emotional. A significant part of the engagement was dedicated to assembling her trousseau. This was the collection of clothing, linens and other personal items she would bring to her new home. Weeks were spent with her mother and sisters, visiting dressmakers, seamstresses and linen drapers. They would select fabrics for new gowns, undergarments, nightdresses and fine household linens like tablecloths and bedsheets, which were often embroidered with her new initials. This practical activity was also a rite of passage, a tangible way of preparing for her future role as a wife and homemaker. Alongside these practical tasks, the young woman was also being prepared for her new duties. Her mother would take her under her wing, offering advice and instruction on the art of running a household. She would learn about managing servants, planning menus, keeping household accounts, and the proper way to host a dinner party. These were the essential skills she would need to create a comfortable and well-ordered home for her husband. A home that would be a calm refuge from the busy outside world. This transfer of domestic knowledge from mother to daughter was a crucial part of her transition from girl to married woman. Emotionally, it was, a time for reflection and farewells. The young woman would spend her final months at home cherishing her time with her family, especially her sisters and her mother. There was a gentle sense of nostalgia, a sweet sorrow in knowing that this chapter of her life was coming to a close. She was saying goodbye to the familiar rhythms of her youth, while she looked forward to her future with love and hope. There was also a poignant awareness of all that she would be leaving behind. The engagement was her gentle final season as a daughter, a quiet time of preparation. As the wedding day drew near, the bride's preparations intensified, focusing on the ceremony that would mark her official transition into married life. The centerpiece of these preparations was, of course, the wedding dress. Following the precedent set by Queen Victoria at her own wedding in 1840, the white wedding gown became the overwhelming fashion for brides who could afford it. White was seen as the ultimate symbol of purity, innocence and maidenly virtue, a perfect reflection of the Victorian ideal of womanhood. The dress was often made of rich fabrics like silk, satin or fine lawn, and lavishly decorated with lace, ribbons and artificial orange blossoms. The bride's attire was laden with symbolism. She would wear a veil, another symbol of modesty and virginity, which would be lifted by the groom only after the ceremony was complete. The orange blossoms, worn in a wreath on her head or as trim on her dress, represented chastity and were a hugely popular wedding motif. Tradition also dictated that she should wear something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, a custom that continues to this day, each item carrying its own promise of good fortune, continuity and faithfulness for the new life she was about to begin with her husband. The day before the wedding was a time of quiet reflection and family intimacy. The bride would spend her last evening at home, often with just her immediate family. It was a time for final words of advice from her mother and heartfelt farewells to her siblings. The groom, meanwhile, was not to see his bride on the wedding day until she walked down the aisle at the church. This separation added to the sense of anticipation and the dramatic significance of the moment when he would finally see her in all her bridal splendor. It was a final symbolic separation of their old single lives before they were joined as one. The wedding day itself was the grand finale of the entire courtship. The bride, having said goodbye to her single life, would travel to the church with her father, who would then give her away to her new husband. This act was deeply symbolic, representing the formal transfer of her care and protection from her father to her groom. As she walked down the aisle towards the man waiting for her at the altar, she was walking away from her past and into her future. All the quiet signals, chaperoned walks and heartfelt letters had led to this single, triumphant moment of new beginning. Reflecting on the intricate world of Victorian courtship, it can feel like stepping into a distant and unfamiliar land. The rituals of the calling card, the constant presence of the chaperone, and the silent language of fans and flowers seem to belong to a completely different reality. Today, our path to finding a partner is defined by individuality, direct communication, and a freedom of choice that would have been unimaginable to a young Victorian lady. We value speed and spontaneity over slow, deliberate ritual, and personal chemistry over formal family approval. The carefully constructed framework of Victorian romance has all but disappeared from our world. Yet, if we look closely, we can still find faint echoes of that bygone era in our own modern pursuit of love. The idea of a formal proposal, often still done on one knee, is a direct descendant of the Victorian tradition. The giving of an engagement ring remains a powerful and cherished symbol of commitment. The white wedding dress continues to be the dream for many brides. These enduring customs are a quiet testament to the power of the romantic ideals that the Victorians so carefully cultivated. They speak to a timeless desire to mark the journey towards marriage with ceremony, symbolism, and a sense of profound significance. Perhaps the most important legacy of Victorian romance is its emphasis on getting to know someone's character. In their own structured way, they were trying to answer a fundamental question. Is this person kind, honourable, and compatible with me? While we have shed the rigid rules, the underlying desire for a partner of good character remains a central hope in our own relationships. The slow, gentle rhythm of their courtships, while seemingly restrictive, was designed to allow time for a deep and steady affection to grow, an idea that still holds a certain quiet wisdom in our fast-paced modern world. Ultimately, the customs may change, but the human heart does not. The hope, the anxiety, the thrill of a shared glance, and the deep comfort of finding a soul who understands your own. These are the universal elements of falling in love. The Victorians, in their parlours and ballrooms, felt these things as keenly as we do in coffee shops and on dating apps. Their story reminds us that love has always been a journey of gentle endings and new beginnings. It is a timeless search for that one special person with whom we can share our life, a hope that connects our hearts directly to theirs across. Our journey through the quiet, gaslit world of Victorian romance draws to a gentle close. Once, love was a slow, deliberate dance, guided by rules, chaperones, and anticipation. Today, instant connection has replaced careful courtship, yet there's a gentle beauty in the patience and restraint of that bygone era. The Victorians' quiet romance remains a gentle echo, still resonating with us today. Though customs change, the essence of love remains a constant thread through history. The fluttering heart, the comfort of a shared joke, the longing for connection, these are timeless. Whether in a Victorian parlour or a modern living room, we all seek that one person who truly sees us. Love endures, always find